Hello everyone, this is Neha Tulsyan from Crescent Creation. Welcome to another video on my YouTube channel. I created these 3 sets of thank you cards for an Instagram hop which is currently going on Crescent Creation Instagram page. There are 2 giveaways in this hop, so make sure to visit our Instagram page. The link is in the description box below. So as you see, I created 3 different sizes of cards and I created these cards using just 1 sentiment from the thank you digital stamp set from Crescent Creation's May release. So here I'm showing you how I printed my sentiment. On a Word document, I inserted my stamp set and I'm using a crop tool to crop out the sentiment that I want. And I'm making sure I go as close to the sentiment as possible while cropping it out. Next, I'll go ahead and right click on it, click on wrap text and click in front of text. This way I'll be able to move this document anywhere on my page. And now I can just change the size of the sentiment as per my requirement. But before that, I will go ahead and first copy paste this sentiment twice and I'll end up with 3 sentiments that I can use on my 3 cards. Just change the width of these sentiments. The largest thanks measures 3 inches in width and the other 2 are 2 inches and 1.5 inches in width. Here I'm just placing them a little far apart from each other so it's easier for me to later cut them into strips. I saved this file and then printed it out on these colorful cardstocks. I used my HP inkjet printer to print these out. Next, I'm using my Tim Holtz trimmer and trimming these sentiments into strips. Again, to trim these sentiments, you can either eyeball them or you can use this trick from Jennifer McCurry, where you use another cardstock as a guide to see where the trimmer will cut and then make a cut to have a more precise cut. But since I was doing a lot of cutting, I was comfortable just eyeballing it. So I cut 3 strips out of each colored cardstock and I had 6 colored cardstocks here. So I ended up with 18 sentiment strips once done. I'm starting my first card here. For this A2 size card, I used my biggest thanks sentiment strips. To start with, I'm taking the sentiment strips and I'm trimming off the excess right side. Once I have done that to all the sentiments, I'll start gluing the sentiment strips. Here I have a cardstock that measures 4 inches by 5¼ inches. And I'm gluing the top and the bottom sentiment strips first. Next, I'm laying down all the other sentiment strips to make sure I have enough space for all the sentiment strips. And then I'll apply glue all over the white cardstock and then start gluing the sentiment strips one after another. I really wanted to have a little bit of white gap between all these sentiments, but I didn't have a lot of space here, so I just ended up gluing them all together. Once done gluing, I'm taking my trimmer and trimming off the excess cardstock strips. Next, I'm taking this silver glitter cardstock and cutting thin strips out of it. Now with the help of my tea ruler and Barely Arts liquid glue, I'm gluing these silver glitter strips where the 2 colored strips meet. Since these strips are very thin, it's hard to apply glue on them. So using a ruler to apply glue not only helps to apply glue in the right place, but also make sure that the strips are glued in the straight line. Once done, I'm using a clear glitter pen and adding some glitter to all the thanks sentiments. Next, matting this card front onto a black cardstock, giving it a little bit of border all around. And then gluing this to a white A2 size card base. And my first card is ready. For my second card, I decided to make a slimline card using the medium size thanks sentiment strips. So here I have a white cardstock that measures 3 inches by 8 inches and I just marked the center of it using my tea ruler and pencil. And now I'm starting with gluing my third sentiment, that's the yellow sentiment, just on top of that pencil line I made. Since I had a lot of space on the slimline card, I can now leave that white space between the strips that I earlier wanted to. And I also wanted to add a little different visual effect while gluing this strips. So here you can see that I'm not gluing all my thanks in a straight line. So instead of being on a vertically straight line, they are actually going a little diagonally. And to make sure that I glue them all nice and straight, I kept my yellow strip that I first glued as a guide and placed the orange strip on top of it, making sure that the S in the orange strip is in a straight line with the K in the yellow strip. I glued the green strip in the same way, and for the red and the blue strip, I shifted them 1 letter towards the left. So this time the S on the red strip and the blue strip matches the N on the yellow strip. Lastly, place the purple strip matching the S of it with the A of the yellow strip. Once done gluing all the strips, here I'm using my trimmer to cut off the excess strips. Next, I'm matting this card front to a black cardstock, leaving a thin black border all around. Trimming off the excess black cardstock here, and now gluing this to a 3.5 by 8.5 white card base. And my second card is done. And now that I have created these two cards, I wanted to create a third one too so that I can use the left out strips. So here I created this mini slimline card, again with a little bit of variation. For this, I trimmed off a 1/4 inch of black strips. And here I have a white cardstock that measures 3 inches by 6 inches. And here I'm starting to glue my sentiment strips, keeping the thanks sentiment towards the left of the card. Then I'm gluing a black strip at the bottom, leaving a little bit of white space. Next, gluing the next strip, which is the orange strip, making sure I continue to keep that same white gap between the strips, and again trying to create that same visual variation by shifting the orange thanks a little bit towards the left. But now when I glue my yellow strip, if I move it towards the left, I won't be able to have a complete thanks sentiment. So this time I decided to shift it towards the right. Then again, when I glued the green sentiment strip, I moved it towards the left, so creating more like a zigzag pattern. Then once I glued the blue sentiment in place, I realized that I didn't have a lot of space for my last sentiment strip. So I decided not to add that on my card front. Instead, added 2 black strips on top and bottom to finish the design. Trimmed off the excess sentiment strips using my Guillotine trimmer. Matted the card front on a black cardstock that measures 3.25 by 6 inches, and I ended up having a black border only to the left and right side of the card. And now gluing this to a card base that measures 3.25 inches by 6 inches. Lastly, I didn't want that purple sentiment strip to go to waste, so I glued that to the inside of my card. And that finishes my rainbow on this card too. Trimming off the excess strip using my scissors, and my third card is ready. So here are my 3 cards that I made today using just one sentiment from the digital stamp set called Thank You from Crescent Creation. Do not forget to visit the Instagram hop to win prizes and also get inspired along the way. If you like this video, don't forget to give this a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. We now have digital stamp release every month and we upload videos here every week. Here are a few more videos that you might be interested in. Thank you for visiting. Have a nice day.